Dallas Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones. Good morning, sir.
Hey, guys. Kevin, Corey, Mike. Good to be on with you.
Absolutely. Now, I know you've spoken about Zeke's return to AT&T Stadium, and Zeke said he expects some emotions. I was curious, was there one particular player you were really emotional about seeing when they came back to play against the Cowboys?
Yeah, I'll tell you, not any more so than Zeke. I don't think that I can recall anybody more than Zeke. When Emmett came back and he had gone to the Cardinals for the year, or possibly however you want to define it too, that was quite a time. And I remember that he got not seriously injured, but he did get hurt sometime I thought early in the ball game. And I really felt the same way that I would have felt had it been with the Cowboys when he got hurt. I really regretted it, although I was very concerned about his ability to determine the outcome of the game against us. But, yeah, that's kind of a feeling there. But I just can't describe the positive thing that Zeke brings. And it is a concern for me relative to playing the Patriots. And because he'll add a octave to it. And I'm talking about just his demeanor in the dressing room and his demeanor at practice, all of that. I spoke to it all during his career. And in a way, it was as powerful as when you see him get that body lean and get down lower that center of gravity and punish those tacklers. So, I miss him. He talked about that he didn't hear a lot from me. We did talk after after he had made the decision. There was a lot of me that wanted it to. I wanted the best for him, of course, but still I want the best for the Cowboys. And I was kind of laying in the weeds thinking that it might not go good for him out here with another team and that we would be able, at the end, be able to do something. And, of course, I knew that wasn't going to be the case when Bill Belichick called about him and was asking all the right questions.
Now, with that level of admiration for Zeke, and I know he's still got plenty of playing time left, I was kind of curious, do you view him as the type of player that would be worthy for future Ring of Honor induction? I
do. Yes, I do. I sure do. And it's as much, again, this thing that I seem to always allude to, it's what he did for the team. And frankly, I thought that he was a positive, but not positive. I thought that he was very influential in the image of the Cowboys. And I mean that positively. Away from the field or as to the field as it was perceived with our fans and people that just the entertainment of the Cowboys. To me, I look to that when I think about the Ring of Honor. Not only what he did with stats on the field, not only what he was, in this case, as a punishing runner, but also what he did to lift the franchise. Murray was a great runner and really a very productive runner. And so that's one thing, and I really respected him as well. But Zeke had a lift to it that for the whole franchise.
Jerry, I'm kind of curious then, as we're kind of talking about this, do you think earlier in your career or even later in your career owning the Cowboys that you've become more attached to players, like emotionally, or do you think you were earlier in your career? And how has that changed for you?
Well, that is so visible as it relates to players, but I get that way everywhere, seriously. And so I live a very happy life because I enjoy the people that I'm in business with. I'm all business. I don't have hobbies that I can identify. But that's why I say that my time with the Cowboys has been like a hobby. It's just so rewarding, and a part of that's the people I do business that I deal with on a daily basis. That's actually the way it is in areas away from the Cowboys, and that's why I wanted to so early on just have my family, my close-in family, my kids. For instance, I wanted to spend my life working, having fun, dying, fainting, being sad, being up, having some good things happen, make mistakes with. I want to spend my life around them because that's who's going to be around the bedside when you go anyway, so you might as well have got to spend your life with them.
And that answer makes a lot of sense to me. I was curious, though, when you talked about Bill Belichick, is there any chance that, like, that level of attachment can hurt you in sports? Because people describe Bill Belichick as kind of a ruthless person who can cut ties with anyone whenever necessary.
Well, of course, I admire him. I really do. And I also respect him and admire him as a person. But the coaches almost goes without saying. But I have got enough ruthlessness someplace to get by.
Jerry, I am kind of curious. Have you been pleased with what you've seen from this offense, or so far have you not seen enough yet to know whether or not you're excited about it?
Well, there's a little of me that feels a little bit like when we went up to New York Giants, and what have we got here? Because we haven't seen it together in the preseason. And there's a little of me here with this, except I've seen now parts of this, especially on an individual player basis. And so, I don't know, and I'd like to meet somebody that does know what we're going to look like 2 games from now, 4 games from now, down the road. I don't. What I've seen, though, I feel very good about. I feel better than I did going up to the New York Giants for the first game as to what we can be.
Do you think it looks different from what we've seen over the last few years? Do you think it looks that dramatically different, or is it kind of there are a lot of similarities still for you?
Well, there better be a few because we hit some vertical passes in the past years. By the way, we made some bad plays too. I'd like to not see that familiar thing.
Yep.
But, yeah, I've seen some things, and I hope to see some of the successes we had. But I do see, yes, I very much see incorporated in what we're trying to do. I very much see change.
Now, one thing obviously that will help this offense go is a healthy offensive line. I know that has been a tough go thus far in the season. Tyron Smith, Tyler Smith, Biotish, Zach Martin. How are we feeling about the health of the offensive line going into Sunday's game?
Better than we felt last week, but last week it was a sudden thing. We didn't have time to feel bad about it specifically or let's say minutely the way we got those last 2 days of the week. We got some serious setbacks on availability of players in the offensive line 2 or 3 days before the game. And we adjusted. We did adjust. And the players themselves, I thought, adjusted very well. And but there's no question it impacted what we did out there. That's not an excuse because we could very well have to make this adjustment for this team the entire season. If we're going to get to where we're going to go, we may have to do it with a flexible approach to our offensive line and a lot of using the old term position flex, moving people around in English. We may have to have that. Our team, I think you have to have teams in the NFL, I do, that can win without perfect makeups in the offensive line. You just can't have it all.
You know,
when you start going toward that just absolute all pros at every spot, and then try to put a defense out there and have the highest paid quarterback and have some great receivers, all of that gets out of the budget, my man.
Yeah, the highest paid quarterback situation. Does that make you kind of question things with how much money he's due later on down the road there?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I say this when you say question. Does that make you figure that in and have attendant adjustments when you make your plans as to what you're going to have around the quarterback? Of course it does. Yes, it does in a big, big way. And so you need to be maximizing where you're landed, where you're putting the big bucks. You need to make sure you've got a good plan around it. Young players, the ability to have an offense or defense that executes with younger players at certain parts of it. And that doesn't need to come as a surprise, because it's not.
You know, one of the players, Jerry, that you got on a pretty good deal and you made a trade for him this offseason was Brandon Cooks. And a lot of we've seen a number of our Tolos or Turn It On, Leave It On listeners have been texting in and they're saying, hey, I think that Brandon Cooks is a bust. And Kevin and I say we saw some things in training camp that we haven't quite seen yet. We saw some connections with Dak that we were like, okay, that's going to be a lot of fun. What would you say to the Cowboys fans so far that's looking at Cooks and thinking that was a bad addition?
Well, let me say this to the Turn It On, Leave It Zone.
Okay.
And then let me say this to the one that just turn it on when old Jerry's on. I don't know how to distinguish that. Brandon Cooks is the real deal. He's the real deal. And he has speed. And speed that's football usable to win with. And so we've got to get him, we've got to use him maximized, and we will, and we are going to. And he's going to make it better for Lamb. He's going to make it better for the other tight ends. We all know how that works. But the point is, Brandon Cooks is everything we want him to be out there, and am I glad we've got him. He's going to be a difference maker for us. And, when you got speed, then you use it. But you use it when it's out there. Trust me, that defense honors it. And that should help you someplace else.
We've talked in the past about Micah potentially being an MVP down the road, but then I saw J.J. Watt said a quarterback should always be the MVP. I'm curious your take on that. Given how important the quarterback is, do you think MVP now should just essentially be exclusively a quarterback award?
Well, let's tell that to San Francisco. Okay, just look at them. What'd they go through? 3 of them, played with the 4th one, and still had a team that knocked us out of advancing in the playoffs. So much for that. Kudos to them. You do need good quarterbacking. Probably it's the hardest thing to overcome if you don't have good quarterbacking. But candidly, the question needs to be answered. It's not so much the great play, it's not making the bad plays. That's the way to answer that question, so that if you can have excellence in execution and really eliminate your turnovers more than natural, you say, well, now, isn't that great quarterbacking? So that's kind of the gray area there. But you don't have to have a quarterback that just absolutely carries the load on his shoulder to get you to the Super Bowls. In our Super Bowl years, and boy, did Aikman make the difference. And no, I don't think we win Super Bowls without Aikman. So let me get that straight right now. But we had to have people come in during those years and make up for when he wasn't out there. And he wasn't out there from time to time because of injury, principally, of all the time. And so, but we were able to have a team that was able to win and work through those without his dominant skills on the field. So my point is, that's why they get the prominence they get with the money. They do give you the greatest edge. But I don't think you have to be a quarterback. Let me answer the question directly. I don't think you have to be a quarterback to be the most valuable player. No.
Micah still has a shot then, Kevin.
Yes.
That's what I'm hehearing from Jerry right there.
You're not a shot. But I don't mean he's got a shot. You're talking about Kevin, and of course, why we're wasting our breath. But the main thing is that in general, yes, there can be great, most valuable players, great, I emphasize that word, that are not quarterbacks.
Your first-round pick, Mazi Smith, was intentionally picked to help the run defense, and I know it was a bit of a struggle last week as Arizona had a very good game plan set up against you guys, going right at Micah early and having really good counters against y'all. How do you think Mazi is coming along so far, though, within this run defense?
Well, I think he's let me just say this, not one thing that you see in him, how he's evolving, that doesn't say you're going to get a very outstanding football player that has some of the most unique football attributes that have ever been put on the field. And I'm talking about athletic skill as well as strength. And so what I'm really trying to say is, the great Tom Landry said, don't ever pass judgment on a defensive lineman until you've seen him 3 years. And so they do evolve and take their skill level or their assets and get better and better. He is well on track for that. And I'm not going to measure when he and how he gets better, but he'll be a big input for us this year to our success this year.
Now, the last thing I was kind of curious about is a league-wide thing is the Jags are playing the Falcons Sunday in London, but also that's going to be the Toy Story game on Disney+. Y'all are doing that. You've done the Nickelodeon broadcast. How important are these kind of alternate broadcasts or things that appeal to kids in the TV NFL era?
We have known for ever since I've been in the National Football League that the more you can get your game in front of numbers of people, in this case, it's the younger age group, the more of those eyeballs you can get in front of. In other words, it used to be called free TV as opposed to cable or something like that. That has been the secret sauce for the NFL. Have it out there among and available to as many people as you possibly can. And that singly is the biggest reason that we have, the NFL does, the viewership we have today, is because we've never swayed away from that. We've always looked for numbers of eyeballs. This is another way to do it.
Jerry, I know you can't get out to the state fair, but do you have anybody fly you in a Fletcher's corny dog and a funnel cake?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have had a lot of Fletcher's corn dogs, and that is me out there. I'm made up. I've got you look real close there. That old dog you see going down the freeway, that's old Jerry. I'm masquerading. No, seriously, Midway, I mean, going down to Midway. But we all love that fair thing. I grew up. My father had this grocery store, and we had the State Fair parade, and it went from North Little Rock over to Little Rock, across the bridge. Well, I rode this little half mule, half horse. It wasn't even a Shetland pony. But I rode it when I was tall enough that my feet almost drug the ground, and I held up a sign advertising my dad's little grocery store. And, of course, all my buddies in school would be jeering on the side and everything, and I'd ride that completely through North Little Rock, go across the bridge into Little Rock and what have you. And so, but that was just a part of the state fair, and it was a lot of fun. But I don't mind telling you, I took a lot of kidding about being up on that half mule, half horse. It wasn't a Shetland pony. And my feet dragging along there and riding that deal. But Dad said, get up there, and I got up there.
Outstanding.
And that drove traffic to the store, Kevin.
Yeah,
so it's good.
Look, I get it. We might need to do that. Thank
awesome.
you very much, good sir, and obviously best of luck going up against the Patriots.
You bet, guys. Thank you.